Payday 3 Update 20 is perplexing to me. A what-if update full of promise that displays the clear limitations of what the current team can package and polish within a single update. The new contract system is a combination of narrative expansion, admittedly making use of assets that I'm fairly certain have existed since launch, in addition to providing chase goals for players, expanding on the fairly inane daily challenge system we currently have. A much needed impetus to play the game for that bit longer, although with extremely limited scope and intrigue at this point. 4 contracts consisting of what amounts to 4 challenges each, almost like we're back in 2023. These shouldn't take you more than 3 to 4 hours to complete. I understand this is just the initial iteration of this feature, but it feels like we've been chasing promises with this game since before it first launched, with a constant more to come attached to everything, which never ends up feeling properly fulfilled. I mean, this is the game that still has a solo mode beta watermark on a mode added years ago to cover up the now cancelled offline one. How can you actually trust there will ever be that one more thing they promise? In addition to this positive, but still lacking addition, Update 20 also comes with peer-to-peer, except once again, it's just the possibility of one day having peer-to-peer functionality. They don't trust a full switch right now and intend to do a few test runs in the coming weeks. Caution is all well and good, but it does feel sometimes like this is a studio with delusions of grandeur when it comes to their product. I also find it somewhat ironic that they're keen to emphasize a measured rollout of peer-to-peer for stability reasons, and yet they're more than happy to go live with the contract update with a known caveat that sometimes contract challenges will complete themselves, like that's not a core enough issue to fix before release. And let me tell you, this is a very real problem I ran into, completing the suppressed weapon challenge without ever having it active. Anyway, I digress. Peer-to-peer should be a massive improvement for Payday 3, especially if it can smooth out the server lag that's plagued online play for years, but until we see that in action, I'm not about to levy praise upon it. That said, this update also includes optional damage numbers, a few nice new cosmetics tied to contract rewards, and of course more security variations, specifically in terms of their weight, which is as random an addition as it is amusing. Overall, it feels like yet another filler update, but to tide us over to what exactly? We have no idea what the next major piece of releasing content is, and under this new leadership team, they have admittedly kept to their monthly update cadence, but it just feels like one of the larger updates we used to receive split across 3 months, and somehow even less polished as a result. Slim pickings when we know who ate all the pies. Anyway, let's dive a little deeper into contracts, as they're really the crux of this update and where it may have legs in the future. As I mentioned, there are 4 currently available to play through, all attached not to the usual roster of heist contractors, but instead the 4 brokers from the store. Gage is back, the old weapon vendor with a more mysterious look, which I can only assume is to avoid lawsuits of Vlad style. We have Gleam, which I saw best described as female V from Cyberpunk, Mr. Wright, who's got a really cool design, there's also the spit of Leroy Smith from Tekken, while Satagi is a bit of an amalgamation of that cute hacker stereotype Joy used to embody. I've seen a lot of "is this AI" discourse, and whilst I'm not willing to stake a claim in either direction as we've been misled in the past, I do believe these images have existed in some shape or form since before the game released, and were intended to coexist alongside contractor icons, which are not AI, even if they do fall into that uncanny valley. Moving on from everyone's favourite debate, instead of selling us guns, painting en masse, or shilling their shitcoins, they instead have 4 thematic challenges for us to clear based around a small snippet of narrative somewhat tied to their backgrounds. You can only have one of these contracts active at a time, and they need to be completed in order, although as soon as one is done, the next starts progressing without resetting the heist. In fact, heist completion isn't necessary at all, so often the fastest approach is just to reset or run a quick solo heist to smooth progress out. To be fair though, as of this patch, they will just randomly start completing anyway, so I wouldn't worry about optimizing routes at this point. As gameplay mechanics, they're not a bad idea, something to chase after with fairly tangible rewards. I also like they tell a bit of a story and have thematic tie-ins to your actions, with Gage for instance sending us after some drug lord, disrupting their operations by stealing coke, hitting Cook-Off, and then their penthouse on Touch the Sky, using an overkill weapon to make sure they know Gage sent us. It almost works, but in my opinion requires just a bit too much suspension of disbelief, bearing in mind we're still obviously just going after Mason Laurent on Touch the Sky, and this fictitious drug lord of Gage's is nowhere to be seen. And once that illusion is shattered, you'll quickly start to realise most objectives are bland and uninspired, and might as well be just an extra daily challenge. It's easy to critique, so I'll also suggest a solution. Add a bit of depth to these challenges and don't be afraid to make them difficult. If the rewards are worth it, players will be willing to jump through achievement level hoops to succeed, adding more intrigue and replayability rather than just amounting to a passive completion with a one and done side objective. This would also let them lean further into the narrative elements they want to bring out. For example, Satagi asks us to do a syntax error as a pacifist to avoid riling up her connections. Gleam wants us to beat 99 boxes within a certain time limit to ensure no degradation in the compounds. Or Gage wants us to kill a dozer with a sociopath baseball bat to send a message. Do you get my point? This could fill the gap achievements currently vacate, adding replayability and legitimately hardcore challenge which is currently absent. What I did enjoy far more than I expected though was the actual rewards. In total we received 2 weapon stickers, a weapon charm, mask from Gleam and gloves from Mr. Right. Again, the thematic rewards work, and they're also far higher quality than I anticipated. The gloves are cool and unique, whilst the mask is genuinely one of my favourites in the entire game, customizing well whilst also being free of charge. Credit where it's due, although I believe microtransactions to be just around the corner, these are nice free bonuses within the update. That wasn't the only major addition, although the next is likely to be just as polarizing, as damage numbers are now in the game as a UI option without needing to mod them in as so many of us did with Payday 2. I'm in the pro-info HUD camp personally. I've always loved damage numbers, not only because of the feedback loop, but also because it helps you analyse the value of your build in real time. That doesn't mean I don't understand players wanting to retain a sense of realism, which is why I think it's good this option is switched off by default. You also have 2 options, minimal and arcade, with one giving you a more distinct number pop-up next to the damaged area, and the other a tiny bit of feedback to the left of your crosshair. I actually found this minimal effect to be more off-putting, just off to the side, so recommend if you're going with numbers, use arcade. This is my favourite way to play and is actually a very solid implementation of damage numbers, conveying the information without necessarily cluttering your screen, a really decent addition, although not beyond the realm of modders if we're being honest. Speaking of the kind of thing that's usually the realm of modders, for some reason they added fat cops. Yeah, these poster children of the modern American diet really add to my immersion. Apologies to my 80% US audience watching, just a joke, and I know Ozempic is moving mountains for you guys these days. And you know what, as daft as this is, the greater visual variety is actually a solid change, and I did have a laugh at these poor guys' expense, especially knowing it's just still the same gen set blokes we've known for years packing on the pounds. Unfortunately, at least if you're a LoL player, these lads don't tend to last long on the map, so don't expect to see much of them all things considered. You'll do a double take when you spot one, and as funny as it would be to say fat cops save Payday 3, it's probably not worth the extra gigs of space these fellas take up. The final really noticeable change is to lockpicking, which has now been specifically crafted to ruin my day. If you thought I was bad at these Dead by Daylight skill checks before, just look at me now. To combat the old spam strategy, they've not only added more red zones, which fully remove any lock progress now, they've also made it so if you miss a green zone, the ticker will slow down, throwing off future timings and halting your progress slightly. It also doesn't tick passively for a few seconds after you miss, meaning the old Payday 2 lockpick style is also kinda gone. I'm split on this one. I mean, it is a much more engaging minigame now, but it's also a frequent enough objective type it runs the risk of actually damaging the pacing of heist, especially if you're even half as bad at it as I am. Moving on to the more minor additions, at least next to Big Chungus over here, you can now see your legs when sliding, which is already the best thing in the game after they allowed you to bunny hop out of the slide and get some crazy momentum. Feet lovers rejoice, although it's a bit odd not being able to see your legs again as soon as you start running. Smoke and gas visibility has also been improved, which is an excellent change on paper until you remember that being able to see the gas exists is half the battle with Nader's grenades. Now, although you can easily see and shoot through it, you'll often fail to notice it's even there, with a lingering hitbox even after it seemingly dissipates from your screen. Surely there's a better solution here. Finally, a couple of weapons have been buffed, although it's not entirely clear how. The Bison seems to feel like it used to a few patches ago, which is a good thing I think, and the Adelig now has half decent pickup again, giving it its crown as probably the best AR in the game right back. Solid, and I appreciate them listening to the feedback. So where does that leave us with the update conclusion? Well, again, I'd say it's more good than outright bad, with wasted opportunities rather than negative additions permeating throughout. But with all the misery encircling Payday at the moment, it's hard to come away feeling entirely satisfied. For anyone wondering why this update video was later than usual, I didn't have early access, which is totally fine from my perspective. I actually enjoyed the update more this way, even if it makes the video creation process extra stressful. But the reason why this wasn't in place is more alarming. As of last week, the entire community management team was made redundant, or in Elizabeth's case, reassigned to a new department. We no longer have that link to personalities within the community, so the human touch is very much gone. I wouldn't expect livestream advertising to return, and the Payday social accounts are clearly ran by a couple of people who've not only lost the magic of the Payday Twitterman persona Almir forged, but also look intent to remain faceless, which makes every reply on Twitter or Reddit feel like it's coming from a corporate stooge. This is the reality of Starbreeze's predicament and what it's like working at this company nowadays. It's also the reason why I feel some level of obligation to choose my words carefully when scripting these sorts of videos. Things are truly grim, and it's very difficult to get past that, especially when decision makers keep stepping on their own toes, delaying events, stumbling over peer-to-peer, and yet somehow releasing contracts in a half-functional state. So even when there are moments of levity, I have to admit this is a small and underwhelming update on the surface. Of course, peer-to-peer's addition could do wonders for the game's playability online, but that remains to be seen. Sadly, I doubt you'll see players stick around for long enough to even test it out in this patch cycle, given all contracts will be wrapped up within 1 or 2 play sessions, and you'll be left in that same cycle of what to do next, just as fast as usual. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Be sure to check out Apex Gaming PCs for my link below if you're in the market for a new computer, and I'll see you all in a Payday 2 video later this week. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.